In the sleepy town of Ravensford, nestled among the rolling hills and dense forests, stood the imposing Blackthorn Manor. A crumbling relic of a bygone era, the mansion had stood abandoned for over a century. Locals whispered of the manor's dark past, filled with tragedy and unspeakable horrors. They spoke of the cursed Blackthorn family, who had all met terrible fates. The manor's sinister reputation had kept the townspeople at bay, but that was all about to change. It all began when a group of 5 daring friends decided to spend the night at Blackthorn Manor on a dare. They were Alex, a daring and adventurous soul; Olivia, the clever and analytical one; Jake, the funny but easily scared friend; Emily, the empathetic and sensitive one; and Lucas, the level-headed and resourceful leader. They parked their car on the overgrown path leading to the mansion and armed themselves with flashlights and courage as they entered the decrepit building. The moon cast eerie shadows across the dusty floorboards as they stepped inside, the air thick with the smell of mold and decay. Olivia noticed strange symbols carved into the walls, which she couldn't quite make out. As they moved further into the manor, the group came across a portrait gallery. The eyes of the painted Blackthorn ancestors seemed to follow them as they passed. In the grand ballroom, they found an ancient, cracked mirror. As Emily stared into its depths, she felt a sudden chill, as if someone was watching her. Shaking it off as her imagination, they continued their exploration, eventually finding their way to the library. This room was different somehow. It felt colder, darker, and a sense of foreboding hung in the air. Jake nervously joked about the stories they'd heard of the manor being haunted, but the laughter died quickly as the group felt uneasy. Lucas suggested they set up camp for the night in the library, and they reluctantly agreed. As the hours ticked by, the group began to drift off, their dreams invaded by sinister whispers and haunting images. Olivia, restless in her sleep, was woken by the sound of footsteps. With her heart pounding, she shook Alex awake, and they listened intently as the steps seemed to grow closer. Panicking, the group tried to gather their things and flee, but they found the library door had slammed shut, and no amount of force would budge it. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly, and the friends huddled together for warmth. They watched in horror as frost crept across the windows, obscuring their view of the moonlit night. Suddenly, they heard a low growl coming from the darkest corner of the room. As their flashlights trembled in their hands, they revealed a grotesque, twisted figure, its eyes black voids filled with malice. The friends screamed in terror as the creature lunged at them, its wretched form barely visible in the dim light. Emily, her voice shaking, began to recite a prayer, and as the words left her lips, the creature seemed to recoil, its unearthly wail filling the air. Olivia recalled the strange symbols they'd seen earlier and began to draw them on the ground, hoping it might help ward off the malevolent entity. Meanwhile, Lucas discovered a hidden switch on the library's fireplace, revealing a secret passage. Desperate for escape, they raced through the narrow tunnel, the creature's growls echoing behind them. They emerged in the manor's overgrown garden, sprinting for their car as the chilling wails of the creature pursued them. As they sped away from the cursed manor, the friends promised never to speak of the horrors they had experienced that night. They sought solace in one another's company, forever bonded by the unspeakable terror they had shared. However, they couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed them from Blackthorn Manor. In the dead of night, they would hear distant whispers, and the air would turn cold, much like it had in the library. Shadows seemed to linger at the edge of their vision, never quite revealing themselves. Weeks passed, and the friends tried their best to return to normalcy. But the relentless nightmares, the cold spots in their homes, and the unexplained phenomena that seemed to plague them became too much to bear. They knew they had to confront the evil that had attached itself to them, lest it drive them mad. Returning to the library in Blackthorn Manor, they pored over ancient tomes and researched the history of the cursed estate. They discovered that the creature that had attacked them was a malevolent spirit, a vengeful remnant of the Blackthorn family's tortured past. This spirit fed on fear and could be bound to a physical location if the proper ritual was performed. With renewed determination, the friends gathered the necessary materials for the binding ritual and returned to the decaying mansion. They knew they had only one chance to banish the spirit and free themselves from its haunting presence. Entering the manor, they felt the familiar chill in the air and saw the shadows stretch out from the corners. The spirit knew they had come to confront it, and it was not pleased. As they made their way back to the library, they could hear the creature's growls growing louder, closer. In the library, They quickly drew the symbols on the floor and lit the ceremonial candles. As they began to recite the ancient incantation, the spirit revealed itself, its twisted form more terrifying than they remembered. The room trembled, and the temperature plummeted as the spirit attempted to thwart their efforts. But the friends' determination was stronger than their fear. They continued the ritual, their voices rising above the creature's wails. As they spoke the final words, a blinding light erupted from the symbols on the floor, enveloping the spirit. It screamed in fury and agony as it was bound to the library, its influence contained within the walls of the manor. Exhausted but triumphant, the friends left Blackthorn Manor for the last time. The weight of the haunting lifted from their shoulders, and they knew they had finally conquered the evil that had tormented them. The experience had forever changed them, and they vowed to never again underestimate the power of the unknown. As for Blackthorn Manor, it continued to stand as a haunting reminder of the darkness that once resided within. The townspeople of Ravensford whispered new tales of the courageous group who had dared to confront the malevolent spirit, but they continued to avoid the cursed estate. The manor remained a chilling monument to the horrors of the past, its secrets locked within its crumbling walls, waiting for the next brave soul to venture inside.